I actually don't know the last time that I've recorded an episode or hosted an episode.
Right now, recorded
2 days
but
ago.
Right now, or I meant hosted.
Dylan,
yeah.
I'm Jose. I'm one of your friends. Do you remember me?
No,
this is Vaughn.
I'm sorry. It's the first time I've seen you through this looking glass.
For years.
It's weird. We've been friends for years now. What a wild time. Yeah, it's just weird to think. That's all.
That's going to be true for most people.
Anyways, welcome to another episode of After School Cinema Club. My name is Dylan. I'm the writer out of the group. I am joined by Vaughn, the actor, and Jose, the director out of the group. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
It's still hot.
Jose, you start.
It's still hot. That's it.
Did you try the ice in a bowl?
I did. It didn't really work for me.
I'm sorry.
We have
you have a really spacious place.
It's a studio. It's kind of pretty big. Yeah. The fan that we bought is good enough, TBH. But it's just
that Vornado actually.
Hot.
Are we like in the 90s?
Yesterday, I think, peaked at like 90 something. The Niners played at 95 degrees down in Santa Clara. The hottest it's ever been in Santa Clara for a game.
That weather machine, man. The Dems just fucking with it now against their own kind.
I mean, if they release the dome on this flat Earth of ours, that probably could let us air out a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, just magnifying heat just constantly.
That's annoying though, thinking of like applying real science to a fake science thing. Like, this is why they're making it hot for us. Convection. It's like, okay, we're almost there. Keep going. Keep going. I'm feeling good. Comic-Con was this weekend. Sorry. I probably should have gone first. I don't know. I didn't know if it was going to be worse for me to like open and then you come up with this like it's hot, or you're like things are terrible. And I'm like, I had a great weekend. Yeah, I had my panel and it was good. Thank you, Dylan, for showing up for lay panel. Jose, I know you would have. Were you in town? But when you move back down here, we'll sort it out. And who knows? Maybe we'll get hosting.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be hosting our own panel,
which is probably more doable than we would think. But yeah, I had a really cool post-panel moment where a total stranger came up to me and was like, "You were great. Can we take a photo together?" I was like, yeah, dude, let's do it. Sure.
There we go.
And then some other person who I didn't know and didn't know anybody else on the panel, like randomly followed me on social media afterwards. It's like, okay.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's dope.
There we go. You're famous.
I guess.
If you weren't famous enough for your wonderful commercials, now you're famous IRL. People can see the person that is Vaughn.
It's really cool seeing people in line being like, yeah.
I'll also say
that's fine.
I know that's the thing that happens, because also the today, so my panel was yesterday, and then my panel was Saturday. On Sunday, just in case time is weird, I was walking around the floor because my friend had a booth and there was another booth that had some merch that I wanted to check out. So I was just kind of like roaming around, and these people definitely looked at me like eyes lit up and pointed, but I had my headphones in because it was like so noisy, so I couldn't quite hear what they were saying. But it was definitely in reference to me. Like I wasn't around, like because Sundays are a lot lighter in terms of traffic. There weren't other people around, so it was definitely like I am. Maybe they saw me and they're like, "Oh my god, that's the guy," or maybe they saw me and thought I was somebody else. I don't know, but there was a moment of recognition, true or false. I don't know, and that was weird and like kind of cool. And I was like, "Great, I'm just gonna keep walking though."
What do you think would be the best and or worst celebrity to be like confused for?
Can I say, and I don't know if you've said this on pod, and I'll cut it if it's not. Do you think they confused you with John Boyega? Because I remember you saying that a lot of people confused you for John Boyega.
What?
That would not be acceptable now because I have facial hair. Like I maintain facial hair now. At the time, I was doing more of like a closer to clean shaven look.
I don't know if I've ever seen you clean shaven.
Yeah, because literally once we all met, I was like sticking with this, and then from like a branding standpoint, and I look forward to the day I don't care anymore and I just like get rid of it. But
yeah, now you're kind of locked in
for a little bit, and I like how it looks, and it doesn't. It
looks good.
Was terrible for a moment, and I feel I'm like into it now. So yeah, maybe I will say one of the worst ones I have gotten, and would probably be like, wait, really? King Batch, from like Vine days.
Only a spoonful.
Who? What?
No. That's the guy who's like, he's like, hey, let me get some cereal. And he's like, only a spoonful. And he pulls out a comically large spoon. I'm pretty sure it's King Batch, and he does like
that tracks.
Someone steals a purse, and he's like, "Oh, I'll get it." And he does a backflip.
Yeah.
That backflip though.
Yes, that's King Batch. Yeah, I've gotten him, and one guy was like, he did not believe me when I was like, "No, I'm not him."
Y'all don't look that. I mean, I haven't looked at this dude in 10 years.
No, we don't look alike.
No, they look nothing alike.
If you know,
that's crazy.
This man was convinced I was. The other one that I've gotten the most, especially like when I was in high school and stuff, was David Alan Grier. And that one I do see. And shout out to In Living Color. Shout out to Blank Man. Shout out to he's doing a lot of work more so these days as well. But that one I do see the resemblance. I had a chance to meet him, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago now. And I like went up to him and was like, hey, I always like try to be courteous and stuff. And I said, I don't want to disrupt you or anything, but growing up, like a lot of my friends and stuff have said that I look like you. And he took me in and was like, what, man? No. I was like, okay, great. Fantastic. He hates it.
That's funny. My weekend was uneventful.
You went to Comic-Con?
I went to Comic-Con, and it was great, and I supported my friends. I was even shouted out in the panel, which was cool. Yeah. And I saw a movie, which we'll talk about, because it made me sad.
I was gonna text sorry in advance, but I was like, you know what? I'll leave it.
Any more, motherly trauma movies that we can knock out by the end of the year, it'd be great. Like just anything more,
man.
Well, that would be fantastic. Yeah.
The way that you maybe felt about Vaughn during Civil War, I felt about you during this movie. Maybe not to that extent because you weren't next to me, but throughout certain beats of the movie, and we'll get to it in the later half of the episode, I was like, oh man, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this was rough. And so I was at a kid-friendly Alamo screening surrounded by literal children. Like I'm talking like kids next to me, like with the fucking headphones on to protect their ears type shit, and I'm just like just wiping my eyes away, like from like trying. Yeah. It, I must have looked crazy. I must have looked insane if any parent was getting a look of what was going on.
What's happening over there? Oh God, sweetie, do you need a hug? Yeah.
But before we talk about that, let's talk about some light news this week. I think the first thing is, which was announced, a live-action Rugrats movie with CGI babies is in the works from Paramount, and it's going to be directed or involving the Pitch Perfect director Jason Moore.
Literally keep it.
Oh yeah, he's actually going to be directing it. But yeah, I hate this so much. What do y'all think?
There's so much you lose by taking something from animation to live action. You lose a lot of agency, really, and when it's something as fantastical as talking babies going on adventures, I'm happy to just let that be a cartoon. Like I have a similar kind of gripe with the live action Lion King, which I don't hate it for, like, because it was live action animals, but because it was more National Geographic retelling of Lion King, there's so much subtlety in like expressions and faces that we lose from the animals, and I think there's also going to be a lot of nuance that we miss from babies who, unless they are like, but it's going to be eerie if like these babies do have a full range of expression and emotion at the age of 18 months or however old like Tommy and the gang are.
They're just gonna hire Andy Serkis to do the mocap for like all the characters.
And now I'm in. He's just like on his knees and like on his elbows, trying to be like 2 feet tall. Yeah. Now I'm in.
I'm further out, actually.
I was envisioning a scenario in which actually he's just regular sized, and then they build a set around him though, as if he so it's like a giant block.
Giant set.
Yeah.
Oh, like that one installation piece at the Broad, the giant table.
I've yet to go.
Do yourself a favor.
I know. I want to go. I know.
It's all over Instagram.
Oh, actually, I can talk about another thing that I did that I totally forgot. On Friday, I went to the Hollywood Bowl for the first time, and I saw Justice. And it was unbelievable. Unbelievable show, unbelievable venue, unbelievable, duo to see live. Yeah, I did that on Friday, and it was great.
Yeah, the Bowl's a good venue.
Bowl's a dope venue.
Very good venue, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, I apologize if I look choppy. I think my MacBook Air cannot handle the heat.
That would make sense.
You don't do the little iPhone camera setup?
The computer still has to process everything.
Yeah,
makes sense. I see.
Yeah, part of the reason why the episode was delayed was because of that MacBook. Just doesn't like this heat. No fans. Doesn't like the heat.
Not a fan of the fans.
Yeah.
Or not a fan of the no fans, I guess I should say. Sorry.
Yeah.
Any other takes on Rugrats, Jose?
I mean, I hate it. CGI humans isn't at a level where something like this could not be past that uncanny valley. And to Vaughn's point about like the Lion King live action, where it's just like the stills looked like IRL lions, but as soon as they started talking, it just like didn't work out. And even if you get Andy Serkis, and if you do a 1-to-3 scale soundstage to make him actually be a baby in CGI form, it's still just not gonna work the way people think it will, unless this will be an opportunity to showcase some sort of advancements in CGI. I know Unreal Engine usually has like massive developments and massive like keynotes about where they're going with modeling in the CG space, but has anybody tried it besides video games? And even then, video games don't really do it that well. I mean, they do it well, but it's still like a video game. You know, it's not like an IRL picture.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking that babies kind of walk in a certain way, and so if Andy Serkis will do it, and this is now just official, we're confirming it on the pod. Andy Serkis is going to be.
Andy Serkis.
I'd be interested. I'd be interested to see how he like acts it out, because you know when he does like Caesar or Gollum, like he's like in it and like being the character. So if he has to just walk like a fucking baby, I'd be down.
I think this is going to be terrible. I think it's going to look terrible. I bet it's going to cost so much money, and it's just going to be a massive disaster. Speaking of things that cost a lot of money and are massive disasters, Joker Folie à Deux has completely bombed at the box office. $40 million domestic opening, which is almost half of what Warner Brothers was originally hoping it could do. It is the first ever comic book movie to receive a D from audiences, according to CinemaScore, which is not great.
Although a part of that, I'm still kind of torn on it because I did not enjoy myself as much as I wanted to watching that movie. But a part of it, I feel like it's also on the audiences, because I saw a lot of stuff online where people were like, this was a musical, and they never told you. They never didn't tell you it was a musical.
I told you.
I had a text from one of my friends from back home. He's like, wait, Joker's a musical? And I was just like, what? How do you know that this is a movie and not know that this is a fucking musical? Yeah. There's that. I also just think that like this movie, sorry, Jose, is not good. And it's not like, to me, and if you like this movie, great. But I think there's a lot of times with certain movies where it's like, oh, I had issues with this, or oh, I had issues with this. I feel like for the most part, unless if it just like hits for you in the way that it works for you, I legitimately do not see how someone can be like, oh, I had like slight problems with the movie. Like if somehow it like hits with you, you're gonna love it. But like I think this movie has a lot of misses and is like bland and boring. Jose's the only person that I've heard that doesn't like this movie, which props to you. I kind of like when I'm the only person.
I liked what it did. I mean, even in the review at the end of the episode, I was like, yeah, objectively, in a vacuum, this movie sucks. But for what it does in general and with the story, I'm about it. I really enjoyed it. I was considering watching it again in the Screen X format, that like 270 with the 3 theaters. I don't know if it would add anything to the experience, because it's not like one of those movies, like an action film. But I'd be interested to see it again, see if my takes are still there.
Yeah. Vaughn, any other thoughts?
Makes me a little upset that people are shitting on it.
I mean, I get it, and what I do notice about myself, being the self-proclaimed Paula, in many circles, I just tend to get quiet when I don't have a lot of nice things to say,
and that's fair.
And I think,
what if I told you Todd Phillips was anti-union and said the strike was dumb? Or will you take your answer off the air?
No, no. It's something else. I was trying to just. I always appreciate y'all's thoughts, and I think that's a part of what this pod does. I don't think it's just us talking at each other and then like posting it online. I genuinely do appreciate your takes, and Jose, your take did help me find a deeper appreciation for the film. I think between that and like just my general comic book knowledge around it, it has me considering the body of work. Like if Joker 1 and Joker 2 if we treat it as a very long 2-act play, like what does that do for the structure? What does that do, or how does that inform my thoughts on it? And it doesn't shift a whole lot, but it does make it more interesting.
I'll take interesting.
You almost had me. You almost got me to flip. And that was just from you and your ability to stand and defend your case, literally.
Because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I feel like that's me when I talk about Babylon. I just forgot the name of it for a second. I love that movie. It is a flawed movie, but yeah, I absolutely love that movie, and I think most people don't.
I also don't like the fact that it's being bundled as a comic book movie, because while it is based off of comic book characters, and Joker 2 is a bit more comic booky, the narrative of the first one could entirely just be its own thing, just because it takes place in Gotham.
Sure, Martin Scorsese made it 40 years ago.
Which film?
It's the first movie is like a ripoff of Taxi Driver, kinda, and like King of Comedy. That's all.
I mean, that proves my point.
And not even in a bad way. Like, art is always influenced by other art and stuff like that. It's just at the end of the day, it's a movie about Joker and Harley Quinn. So like, it's a comic book movie.
It's like if like just because it's based on something, like I hate the fact that you have to categorize it as the thing it's based off of. Like, this is a musical, but it's also like a comic book movie, but people are gonna think, oh, this is like Iron Man and fucking DC and shit, but this is a completely different take. I don't know. It's just a personal thing.
That's fine.
I wish there was a better way to categorize it, but there isn't. Like when you make a movie out of a book, it's like, oh, that's a book movie. It's like, well, it's also just its own thing, you know?
Yeah.
I get you. Yeah.
I've already said all of my feelings about that movie.
We have a whole episode about it. Check it out.
I would say go back and check that out.
Speaking of fan reaction and disliking it, the last news topic is going to be about how studios are reacting to toxic fan culture. So Variety reported it this past week that studios are, any movie gets test screened. So they just kind of want to find out what's working, what isn't working, usually relatively early in development. And now it's coming out that from those who did talk to Variety, basically that's how they're referring to it. They're not saying who or what or in what capacity, but from studios. So talent executives and publicists they will publicly bemoan it. However, they will agree that they are doing additional focus group testings for specialized clusters of superfans, was the specific wording, to assess possible marketing materials for major franchise products. And I hate it, because this is essentially allowing toxic fandoms that hate because there's a black character in Lord of the Rings or a black character in Game of Thrones or anything like that. It is kind of allowing them that power and essentially, and I don't normally like this word, platforming them. That is then making sure their voice is heard. And I hate it.
I'm torn on the concept, because, and to tie all of the topics together, when I think about Baby Geniuses and Rugrats, which made me think of Baby Geniuses earlier. But when I think about this live action concept, and I think about how they handled Lion King, And then I also think about how they handled Sonic, where that first iteration of Sonic, that first movie, had like, it was a weird design. He had teeth. People weren't feeling it. And like, they were basically bullied into changing the design of the character, which probably cost them so many millions of dollars, but also made them so many millions of dollars because they got a chance to then use those models for Sonic 2 and now Sonic 3 coming soon. I think it is. I think super fandom in general, is an important voice to consider. Not necessarily adhere to or appease, but it's important to consider because there are, unless you are a super fan yourself making these films, and this, funny enough, we were kind of talking about this at Comic-Con on my panel. But if you're not already invested in the property or super interested in that topic, you have a lot of blind spots. You're going to approach it with a lot less nuance. And like, it's going to be impossible to effectively do, the decades of research for whatever existing IP there is by yourself. And so if you have, a focus group of super fans who can quote, the page and panel of a pivotal moment for a character, that's like not a bad thing to have. And if you're paying them in bragging rights, or like, you know what I mean? Like if they just get to feel like they were a part of a thing and like helped make the decision on a thing, they're going to be invested in like make that thing happen. But it's important to take that information and go, oh yeah, you're right. Like how I say, like Batman, a big part of Batman is the foil of like Batman is the person and Bruce Wayne is the mask he wears. Or like that, like all of his rogues are foils of himself, or like that it's imperative that a Spider-Man story be about the impossibility of balancing Peter Parker's life and Spider-Man's life, and that when one is going well, the other's going terribly. Like that element needs to be a part of his story. The studio can easily miss that. That's not to say that Peter Parker needs to be a white man. And granted, that whole discourse is how we got Miles Morales in the first place. But those voices are important to consider, not adhere to.
I agree. I mean, I think that is the best possible way any of that can go. And so in that type of situation, absolutely, I wholeheartedly agree with it.
It makes me wonder if whether or not they have this intention in mind, but it's gonna blow up in their face. Because when studios do whatever studios do and spend money wherever they spend money, it usually never works out. So if they're going to spend this money to look for these super fans, to try to appease them, and then make a movie, and then the movie doesn't work out, then great, they just burned $200 million. Which, funny enough, I saw this online. I don't think Joker 2 got screening before it released.
Didn't screen it once.
Yep.
Morons. Couldn't find the budget for it. I get it.
I was thinking about hopefully y'all are listening to this stuff in time and like I hope people aren't having to skip around, or are we yeah, my first thought was, hey, if we screen it and people hate it, then we're going to be obligated to like do reshoots and do more work, and then thus delay the film and all this. There's going to be just like more money that we have to dump into this thing. Let's just which
is the Marvel model.
Are you talking about the Marvel model for a DC movie?
I'm fair. I'm more so in the sense of like Marvel is known for essentially shooting the movie twice.
Yeah.
Because they shoot it and then they do a ton of reshoots after. And throughout most of the Infinity Saga did wonders and has not really done wonders since. That's all.
Yeah.
Look, I
the type of I want to see the type of freak who shows up to these focus groups, you know?
I've been to one.
I mean,
It wasn't for a comic book
no,
movie.
No. That's what I'm saying. No. You have to be specifically enough of a comic book guy or just like fandom guy to get selected to go to one of these. Because I mean, focus groups in general are a pretty good side hustle. I have a friend who's pretty much a senior game tester because he's been doing them for 5 years, just like throwing his just darts at the lottery, and then if it works out, he works out. He gets to play test a couple games and walks home sometimes with a couple $100 for the day. You know, it's a
I
good
get
gig.
$100 every time I do it.
Yeah, it's a good gig.
Yeah, I've done it a few times. I've never seen a good movie. I've seen a movie that potentially could be good. None of them have come out yet, so I'm curious. They've never been like awful. It's just been like I ever since Civil War, because if you remember when we went to Civil War, Vaughn, and they were handing out those pamphlets.
Oh,
I've been getting reached out to since.
I've just been sending those to junk. These are things. Oh, cool.
Yeah, they give you $100.
These are things I can't go to, but it's fine.
Oh yeah. I might. Yeah, maybe I technically can't. I don't know. Am I media? Am I?
Good problem to have.
So. Yeah,
you're a writer.
But yeah, I think that the potential for it to then just cater to fans is just. I think that's how you end up with what the last 5 years of like Star Wars has been. I don't know if y'all have seen the Mandalorian trailer, the first Mandalorian trailer making the rounds. It's been like all over my like social media. No, like the first trailer for season 1 of Mandalorian. If you watch that trailer, we're in a different goddamn genre.
Because it's the one everything. Where he cuts the dude in half.
Yeah, he cuts the dude in half. You got Werner fucking Herzog in it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a different. I can't even imagine something like that other than Andor, like being made now.
Yeah,
it's just kind of crazy, and it just feels like because they've just been catering to the lowest common denominator.
I wonder though if in 2024 the pie chart that is like comic book fans is reaching like a majority, because I remember, I forget what classes it was, but there was like the population of people who play video games, and it's like throughout the generations it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and like now I think like most people have played a video game before or own like a console. So I wonder if comic book movies, or comic books in general, nerd culture in general, because of the Infinity Saga, like the majority of the population is somewhat in tune with this, and then if they're just betting on that audience because they're the majority anyway, then why not?
Yeah,
maybe. I feel at the end of the day it comes down to more so than like test screening it for fans, which I agree is important, the Sonic point. It's whoever's creating it. They have to be fans. You look at like Feige and how much he truly cares. Not to say and like someone like James Gunn who truly cares. Like when you put these people in charge of projects, I'm not going to name the franchise that I really enjoy because I'm trying not to mention that as much in this podcast.
And in a way you have by not naming it, but keep going.
Very famously, I made this movie for an audience of one, and that audience is me.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a baller thing to say about your movie.
And I will say the other side to all of this, right, is that we, in a world where studio execs are listening to us in this podcast right now, there is something to be said about the budget, where it goes, and like where the things.
You said the B word.
I'll curse on this podcast. I don't care.
About to get mad.
But I think there's something to be said about where and when that breakdown happens. And I bet you'd find it's going to happen where you hire people who have a name but not an investment and not an interest. And so they have to manufacture that from the time they sign on. So maybe they have 18 months or 2 years of investment in whatever this project or property is, versus like Kevin Feige, who was, I think, not a PA, but like he was so much lower on the totem pole, but saw Hugh Jackman in the first X-Men film and said, "Hey, here's a handful of comics to check out. Here's some like runs you might want to learn, like to like get into your character a little bit more." Like that kind of vested interest. That's who you give the money to. That's where you place. You give them the key to the city, essentially.
Well, how would you find them without focus groups?
Well, I think it's more of creatives. You find people that are already in there, not just some person in a focus group. Like someone that is a screenwriter, someone that is a producer, someone that is a director, that is also very clearly a fan. Because these like people in the focus groups, 99% of them are not then gonna like go into the industry.
And I'm not anti focus group. I'm actually pro focus group, but just let it serve its purpose. Don't let it be Bible.
I'm pro getting that bag in the focus group.
Okay. All right.
Do you want to talk about the movie?
I'm ready. I am
so kick it to you. Give us the roster.
Roll call.
Good morning, class. We have before us today The Wild Robot, directed by, and this is going to be one of those longer ones because there's a lot of names and there's some resumes to run here. Specifically, the director, Chris Sanders, who has done a lot of Disney stuff, lots of like smaller projects for like Lilo and Stitch. What did story for Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, and Mulan. He's also the voice of Stitch. So that is who helped. Yeah, which and like, wow. And like looking at his Hannah, like yeah, that's him. The credits were long, but all of it was like voice Stitch for like a lot of it. He also wrote this project. And or I guess I should say like the adaptation, because it was actually this is based on the book by Peter Brown, who has done other like children's books. This is from what I could see in my brief research, was like the biggest thing, or like this is the biggest thing that his IP has turned into. That takes us to the cast, which is long, and here we go. Lupita Nyong'o, who I'm just going to say needs no introduction. Pedro Pascal also needs no introduction. Kit Connor, who played Bright Bill, needs a small introduction. He previously was the older Reggie in Rocket Man, if y'all saw Rocket Man. He also, most notably, was Nick in the Netflix show Heartstoppers. And I highlight that because that show was also our introduction to Joe Locke, who is currently in Agatha All Along, with Catherine Hahn and Patti LuPone and Aubrey Plaza and all those folks. So it's like it's interesting that both those leads from that show are seeing other success in this moment. Other cast members, we got Bill Nighy as Longneck, Stephanie Hsu as Vantra, Matt Berry, who was from What We Do in the Shadows as Paddler, Ving Rhames playing a hawk or falcon, Mark Hamill, Catherine O'Hara. And because I always feel like there's some sort of like seal of approval when this guy is a part of a project, D. Bradley Baker, for any long time like animation or voice actor fans. D. Bradley Baker is in everything, including this movie. But that's our class roster. Were there any other notable people that I missed that y'all wanted to shout out?
Not that I'm aware of, other than just looking at Chris Sanders' filmography and seeing that he did How to Train Your Dragon, and then also the Call of the Wild, which is that Harrison Ford dog movie, which looks ridiculous. I never actually watched it, but it just looked bonkers.
Yeah, I had to because I always start with the director. I was like, I'm saying too much about this one person. I need to like trim this down. But thank you for also shouting this stuff out. I was like, the resume's long. They're not going to not know who this man is.
Yeah. What'd y'all think about the movie?
Had no right being that good. Had no right being that good.
I was hoping that y'all, after watching this movie, especially you, Dylan, would be that Danny DeVito meme where he's crying at the end of that Always Sunny season, and he's like, "I get it now," because this is the perfect example of why animation works and why animation is cinema. This movie fucking rocks.
Yeah, this movie fucking broke me, man. Like, I don't want to say anything in the non-spoilery parts, but like, it's really good. It's really well written. The story's good. It hits you in the feels. I think even if it wasn't relatable to my personal life, it would still very much like have impacted me. It rocks. It's really good, and the animation's kind of cool. Some of it is honestly, I actually think not that great. Randomly, few random parts where I'm just like, it like took me out. But
yeah, the art style takes a minute to get used to, but it
Really?
mimics a lot of the storybook of it, because a lot of the matte paintings for like a lot of the background stuff and a lot of the non-character 3D, a lot of the 2D stuff, amazing.
I am always perplexed and grateful that I don't have the same critical eye y'all do for this kind of stuff, because I'm like, it would look great to me the whole time. I don't know. I will say, I know we don't normally. She might kill me for this. Whatever. I know we don't normally do more talk about things outside of the three of us seeing this film. I saw this movie with my girlfriend, and
girlfriend reveal.
Hey,
is this the first time we're talking about it on pod?
This is the first time we're talking about it on
Dang.
pod. I'm not.
Sorry, ladies.
Well, you know. And frankly, fellas, because that I get some of that too. But also, and they but I'm taking anyway. Point is, I looked over at her at certain moments and not just her, but throughout my entire theater, which was mostly adults, but there were some kids at our viewing. I just heard a lot of, and I looked at her, and I want to say the entire second half of the movie, her face was just wet. It was just like nonstop, and I frankly was right there with her. But this had no right. This movie had no right being this good. And they were doing some of those classic, I want to say like animation tropes of like, just like even with soundtrack that helps usher in that emotion for you, or like give space for you to have that emotion. We'll get into the non-spoilery stuff, but we'll get into the spoiler stuff later. But yeah, just from a non-spoiler standpoint, absolutely incredible. At certain points, I will say, if I had to be critical about a thing, it felt like there were 3 moments this could have ended, and it made me think like, I wonder, like this could have been a 3-episode series, like 3 half-hour episodes, or 4 half-hour, 4 22-minute episodes. But watching the narrative come all the way together, I absolutely adored it. I loved it. It was great.
That's really good.
I said, I'll say it again. I'll say it again. This is the reason why animation is cinema. this movie has every right to be this good because you cannot do what animation can do more perfectly than watching this movie.
Yeah.
This is a shining example of what the medium can do. With like Transformers being like right behind it. Another animated movie.
I support that.
Yeah. Do you want to go into spoilers?
Yes.
No.
No, absolutely, I do. The other thing I'm thinking about from a non-spoiler standpoint is just, I think the reason I say it had no right being this good is just, outside of like humor, also that like I knew what to expect, but I didn't know what to expect at the same time.
Same.
I appreciate that as a moviegoer because I'm with Dylan that I think a lot of, and this is probably speaks to like my theater going practices. Like a lot of movies these days are giving us too much in the trailer. I will say from a teaser I saw of this film, there was a moment that I knew was coming, and I was just like, okay, when is this happening? Because there was like a certain line, I was like, okay, this based on how the story is going, this moment hasn't happened yet, so I know that there's more. I know that like there's still some other pieces to move around on the board to set this thing up. But outside of that, I commend them for concealing as much as they did around the heart of this film. I also wish that there was more advertising for it, but at the same time, I think there's something to be said that like I went and tried to find, two tickets, two seats together, and it was really hard to do for a lot of screens.
Yeah, it's already made money. It's already in the profit. I think it's already hit over 100 million.
Lovely.
Yeah, to your point, Vaughn. And maybe it is the algorithm, and the algorithm knows what movie you're going to watch. Because I've seen this trailer a couple times before the movie came out. Because I think I put it on my list for things that I'm excited to see this year, or it might have just gotten snuck out by something else. But I was looking forward to the movie for a while. But in the trailer, there is something that seems to kind of be climactic, and then ultimately does seem to be climactic. But I used that knowledge to go pee. I try my best not to, but when nature calls, no pun intended, nature calls and you gotta go. But given where we were at, I was like, you know what? I still haven't seen this one thing or this couple things, so I think I'm pretty good if I just run over real quick and come back and not miss much. And yeah.
I am always willing to suffer bladder damage when it comes to watching a movie. I will not get up. Which takes us to the spoilers. Dylan.
Dylan, please.
So this movie is about a mother who's essentially dying and whose body's failing them, trying to make sure their son gets out into the world. I'm just going to leave it at that.
I didn't realize how deep it went until just now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, in hindsight, I'm tearing up.
Yeah, it's okay. You didn't know. I didn't know. You think I would have signed up for that?
That's two mom movies that I made you go watch.
Look, the other one at the end of the day is just it's just a relationship between a mom and son. You know what I mean?
You're talking Dee?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not as like hitting close to home. Whereas like this was something where it was like very, very similar and like hit a lot of this like similar beats. Yeah, it was rough, buddy. Let me tell you. I thought Dee was rough. This was fucking rough.
Did you stay past the credits to like?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh! I thought Yeah, sorry. I didn't need like another Dee Dee, if y'all stayed, ends with for mom at the end of it, which was just getting a like an extra stake through the heart.
Yeah.
With this one, I kind of like, we were probably more on the tail end of leaving because it was like mostly kids. I think parents just wanted to get their kids the fuck out. But no, I didn't want to stay. God forbid if there was like something else in there just to make it even worse.
It was just that like for Dylan at the end.
Yeah, basically.
Sorry, Dylan. That's back at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, that was ooh. Mm-mm.
Vaughn?
Yeah, I mean I
Yeah, follow that up.
Hey, y'all two are the ones who didn't expect this movie to be good. So I want to hear your takes before.
Good. No.
Man, I didn't expect to fucking walk into that. I didn't expect to see my trauma get unfolded in an incredibly realistic or relatable way, like to my life, to quite literally like that. No, I was not expecting that.
I'll say from the teaser I saw, I expected to go into a movie where a robot is in the wilderness for some reason and learns how to like, and I knew it was going to be like I can learn from them, they can learn from me kind of like story. I didn't anticipate because I did know about the like she finds the gosling and it's like you're its mother now. Like I knew that was a part of it. I didn't know that was going to be the spine of the whole story. I thought it was just going to be like an ancillary like piece to it all because I thought Roz was still like I had no clue Kit Connor was even in this, or obviously also who he was before this. But I thought I was going to get a much lighter story overall.
I thought it was going to be like they're protecting the forest or some shit.
Right.
It wasn't going to be as like maternal a story as it became.
Aren't you glad that it is, though?
Am I? Am I?
Sometimes you clean up your trauma just enough. It's like the I want to say like the 90s sitcom meme of like, or like cartoon of, oh, I have to clean up because so and so's coming over, and so you just throw all your junk in the closet, and then the closet's like about to explode. Like that is sometimes how we handle trauma. And this movie just like it like opens that door.
Yeah, but Dee Dee did that first, and then as I was like going around and like picking it up, it's like then like you know how like some houses have like a pull down attic.
Yeah.
So like I pulled that down, and then just like even more just came and fell on top of me.
You're just like,
and yeah.
Yeah, man, so good. And I knew the shot of the Catherine O'Hara playing the mother possum. I knew we were in for a trip at the very least when she was like, as a mother of 7, and then you hear like a scream, like, as a mother of 6, and she just like keeps going on with her story. And then it seemed like they were like they let it land and like sit for a minute. It wasn't until like the end of the scene when like she's like, "Mom, I'm okay." Like I was like, "Oh, weird."
And she's just so happy to see him again.
Yeah.
Oh, yay! You survived.
There were some solid parent jokes thrown in.
Yeah.
I did like that for the most part. A lot of that like nature stuff. It's like started from the beginning, just like how brutal it is and how people are, nature is just out there to survive. I mean, it's a shame, but you needed to build that up because of the inciting incident where she just fucking wrecks the goose nest, and like she even picks up like the wing and is like oh fuck, that's dark,
Yeah.
And a lot of the movie kind of still plays with that. yeah, it definitely plays with that darkness of it. So I will condemn it. I will commend it for that. A lot of my thoughts before going into it too. Again, seeing the trailer multiple times, I thought that this was going to be just straight up silent, and the only person talking, if anything, would be the robot. Because the first couple trailers were just animation, the robot nature, and then wild robot. That's it. And there were still some story beats, but it didn't have the dialogue in. And so when I saw the trailer with the voice acting, and I was like, well, they're gonna make a voice acting that sucks, But ultimately, the voice, going back to what you mentioned, Vaughn, about theater, you can't just have the silence there. You need to elevate the silence, and you elevate it with voice. Although with animation being a completely separate medium, you kind of can get away with just silence and just what's on the screen to really draw you into the narrative. But I wonder if it would have been more universal, because you could have just shown the movie and not necessarily had to have like a specific dub or a specific sub. And it would have been a bit easier to digest, but if a lot of the messaging would have been, or a lot of the themes would have been undervalued because of the lack of dialogue.
Yeah. Super minor thing. And I wondered how much this was already a part of the script and how much this was influenced by the actors in it. But when Roz, Lupita Nyong'o's character, the robot, was like introducing herself to all the like the animals and stuff, I love that like in the cycle of hellos, that Jambo was in there, which is how you say hello in Swahili. I was like, okay, Africa getting a little representation here.
I couldn't figure out what language that was.
Yeah, Swahili. I was like, is this Lupita? Is that Lupita's Kenyan, ancestry coming out and asking for that representation? Was that always a part of it? Once they cast Lupita, did they think, oh, we got to add this, or did she request? Like, at what point and whose decision was it to have that sort of inclusion in there?
I'm gonna go straight into fiction here. It could potentially be a side effect of the world that this movie takes in. Clearly a post global warming environment where society is just underwater or in this domes, because Mount Kilimanjaro is the biggest mountain in Africa, and there's a lot of things out there. And so if the world is flooded, could some of the African continent be above ground to then become a superpower in this post global warming society?
Yeah. Minor note.
Yes.
No, sorry, go ahead, Dylan.
Well, no, I was confusing because they made it seem like it wasn't on, like they weren't going to Earth because it's such a large spaceship. But like they were still on Earth. It was just kind of confusing.
Really?
That doesn't seem like a ship you take to the other side of the world.
Transport ship. Looks like a transport ship.
Yeah, but I felt like a transport ship to like.
It felt intergalactic, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I got it. Based on the nature and capabilities of Roz that we see in like the opening, I was like, oh, like technology clearly has advanced so far ahead.
Yeah.
That is one of the things that I can turn the analytical part of my brain off for, but it does kind of get me when robot bodies are catch-alls and can just do any and everything. Like the same body that can like open up to reveal a power core in its center is the same body that can extend 16 additional tiny arms to keep an egg together. And I can accept that like there's like you can rotate like on its own axis like super fast and like do a rapid spin, if you will. But there's just, it was like, okay, there is no limit to what you can do. Yeah. Which is, or like the limits are so far out there that I'm always more interested in how you overcome a thing you can't do. And I think the way they introduce it with Roz is that she has to take care of a Gosling that doesn't have all the same, powers and abilities. I was just going to say earlier, too, just talking about the world. The minute this thing showed up on like the shore of this island, I was like, oh, humanity is fucked somewhere. I don't know what happened. I don't know what we did. And I think I was like, oh, this is about global warming, like immediately as soon as it was like this thing turned up, on the shore. And it was really jarring. And this is on a much smaller scale in terms of like parental connection and such. But to see the Golden Gate Bridge underwater, I was like, and like comfortably underwater because a whale swims over it. I was like, well, damn. And for any who are uninformed, my father's ashes were spread by the Golden Gate Bridge. I have a specific spot that I go to when I visit him every year and pay my respects. And to know that I would have to bring scuba gear with me to do that in this world is crazy.
It's interesting because I didn't catch global warming at all. I just thought it was an island with animals that this robot shows up in. It wasn't until that scene, because that scene introduces the rest of the world, where I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. And even when she goes back to, I don't remember if this scene was before or after, but when she's looking at the promotional material for the other robots, that society is clearly just like way more advanced in contrast to the island.
It's a fake language, it looks like.
I wouldn't even study it that closely.
It looked like it was a fake language.
I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. Especially with animation. I mean, dude, fucking Star Wars, like, they fucking have the whole thing for that. And
yeah, there's a whole real language.
Yeah.
I think, too, though, because we only ever hear English, right? Outside of, like, Roz's introduction. I think doing the fake language allows you to just only have to localize the voice and not the actual text in the movie.
Yeah.
It can be more global more easily. Okay, I'm just going to do it. Gentlemen, in this movie, and Dylan, I'll give you a moment unless you want to just rapid fire and do it. Moments that completely wrecked you. I'll start. When Bright Bill is going off for that migration, and it's clearly like an emotionally charged moment, and Roz runs with him, like arms spread out, to like, she's like, I'll run with, I'll stay with you as long as I can. That threw me. And then when she watched them all go off, and then still ran to the edge of the island to like, oh God. Yeah.
Yeah, that really messed me up. And then like when it cuts to like winter time and they're just not moving in like stasis. The scene where they're like helping save everyone and there's like green juice that's like coming out from them. Anything in relation to that. Yeah, that was not a fun time at the All Alamo Draft House.
When Padler brought her that replacement leg.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah, it was really triggering for me. Like lots of relation of things in my own life. Yeah.
There was a scene even earlier where she shuts down and the fox is like trying to cuddle and the fucking gooseling's like, yeah, I miss her when she falls asleep too. Oof.
Yeah, that's cute.
And I think it's about parenthood, right? It's about motherhood specifically, but we get to see in a very tangible way with Roz all of the very real sacrifices that moms make for their kids, and the silent suffering that they go through for the sake of your child having a better, brighter future.
They even hit on the child being like, "I hate you, Mom."
Mom's just trying her best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was not.
It was a little rough.
I'm trying not to talk about it, to be honest. It's
Okay.
like that.
Understandable.
I respect that.
The DD episode was like this in editing it.
Yeah, but DD didn't hit me. DD didn't hit me as hard.
It's a different phase.
Yeah, like that was like a more joyful type of phase. This was like not joyful. This is the stuff that, like, to Vaughn's point, was, pinned down and nowhere near sight, and it was very much brought out in a room full of children.
Yeah.
It's funny. A lot of my screening was like young adults and their dates and their friend groups.
I saw it at 4:35 on a Saturday.
That's prime.
Rookie mistake.
I saw it at 9 on a Saturday on Friday.
9 p.m.
Or 9 p.m.
Yeah.
That's like bedtime.
Yeah, that's.
Mm.
And mine, I was at a 7:30 showing.
Yes, that's like a little on the late end.
Yeah.
For children. No, I had like the fucking like kids were probably a little too young to be there, like walking around type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah. Which wasn't. It was fine.
I was gonna say, if anything, that maybe helps, because it was like there's this small thing to distract me and take me out of this movie for a hot second so I can breathe.
Yeah.
Let me get mad at this parent real quick for not sitting their child down.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I think I've told Vaughn this story. Last time I went back to visit my family, my dad had given my sister a lot of books I had as a kid, and my sister was letting me know that, like, oh hey, like, Mom's handwriting is in some of them. And like my sister and I have different moms, so like it was more of a like for me type thing. So she like hands me one, and it was just like a like either happy birthday or Merry Christmas, like love Mom and Dad, but very clearly in her handwriting. And like I was getting really emotional, and then like my nephew, who's like 8, is like, that book looks boring. Thank God.
Thank you.
Just like totally, just snapped me right out of that situation. Yeah. So it was some good, levity, much needed levity.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I can tell a somewhat non sequitur story about the first monologue I ever learned, which was Will Smith's monologue from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where so there's an episode. Obviously, he's like with Uncle Phil and like the all the family there, all the Bankses, but his like Will, grew up in Philly with a single mother. And in this one episode, his dad has like come back and is like in his life. And then at the very end, his dad leaves, and he has this like iconic speech about like, I'm getting emotional even talking about it. Just iconic speech about all the things that he's been like put on a brave face for to do and to learn how to do. Like I learned how to ride a bike without him. I learned how to shave without him. I did all these things without him, like to hell with him. And then at the end he says, why don't he want me? And I, at, 20 or so, like new, like acting student, like taking it seriously. I was like, you know what? This scene always feels good to like watch. I'm going to learn it. And I did it I was with some friends. We were so hardcore in college. We would do monologue like nights where we would do monologues for each other and like give notes.
Monologue offs.
Ish, yeah. Think actually no, I was gonna say think like the scene in Pitch Perfect, but blacker. It wasn't like that at all. There were no correlations.
You're in an empty swimming pool somewhere in Phillies.
And we for sure were just a dozen black students at one friend's apartment. Like it wasn't even that deep. But I did this monologue and it was my first time. Like I had this group of friends, but it was a lot of their first time seeing me do something. And I do this monologue and I kept it very like on the surface. And my friend Danielle, who like we are still like super tight to this day, she was like, go deeper. And I allowed myself to like feel it. So I like did the monologue again. My next memory is like somebody helping me get up off the floor about half an hour later because I just was sobbing uncontrollably that entire time.
Damn.
Art can make you feel some heavy shit.
Yeah.
It's animation, baby. It's not just for kids. It's not just the Skibidi Toilets and the Coco Melons.
Y'all want to rate this movie?
Solid 9. Contender for best animated movie of the year. There is one more that I've heard is making the rounds. That seems to be like right up there. But for me, this is best animated movie of the year.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else there's been. It's Kung Fu Panda 4.
Inside Out.
Inside Out.
Transformers.
Inside Out's better than this movie.
Oh, I don't know.
Inside Out is a bit more. It's a bit more open than this movie.
Look, this movie speaks to me. This movie's like fucking written for me. But I think Inside Out 2 is a better movie, personally.
Because I
don't remember what I rated Inside Out 2. Sorry, what did you say?
Because it personally.
I'm asking why you're saying Inside Out 2 was better, even though this one spoke to you more.
I found there were a few times in this movie where I like from an actual just like filmmaking standpoint, I thought it like kind of was a little slow paced, like too slowly paced. Like in like small little, just like I didn't like absolutely love it, despite the fact that it was very, very clearly speaking to me. I really enjoyed this movie. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, and it's a solid B. I just felt that Inside Out 2, like the way it handled stress and anxiety and what it's like to be a teenager and how nothing's working and you're just trying to figure out how to fit in. This movie hits on those to some extent, but it's not quite the same. Yeah. That's all. I just liked Inside Out 2 more.
Copy. Yeah, I would say this is a solid 9.5.
Damn.
Wow.
And the half point, would so solid 9.5. I'm gonna give it a solid A as well. To get that A plus, I would say maybe slightly soften some of those moments, like I described in I think the non-spoiler part. That this felt like it could have been like 3 or 4 episodes of a thing, because the way those peaks came about, it was like it was too sharp for me for there to be more story to tell after.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, it seems like we're building up to Bright Bill taking this migration, which cool. And then the migration happens. Oh, and then there's still more story to tell because Bright Bill then goes on this journey and like gets to like the human colony or whatever. And then it seems like that was like maybe going to be like the ending. And then, okay, they're back together. And then she gets captured. And then she does agree to go back with it. So there were just like too many moments for me where it was just so close to the climax. But I still fucking loved every moment of it. So it's, that's why it's a 9.5 for me.
Dope. Alrighty.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram. Let us know if you've seen this movie. Let us know what movies to watch. Let us know what movies not to watch. Shout out to people who texted me today about my opinions on Joker. I still love the movie, and that's how we started this episode, defending Joker.
One person defending Joker.
Defending Joker. Coming soon to the streaming near you.
Class dismissed.